At 81, one of music's greatest songwriters finally told the truth. Paul McCartney, the man who helped change the world with melody, revealed that even within the Beatles' golden catalog, there were songs he secretly couldn't stand recording. For decades, fans assumed every session was magic. Lennon and McCartney smiling behind microphones, creating timeless art in a haze of genius. But behind that perfect picture, there was tension, boredom, exhaustion, and at times resentment, because not every song felt like a masterpiece. Some for McCartney were a burden, the sound of a dream turning into obligation. This is legend uncovered. And these are the Beatles songs Paul McCartney secretly hated recording. 1. Maxwell's Silver Hammer. Paul McCartney wrote Maxwell's Silver Hammer as a quirky, dark little nursery rhyme, a mix of humor and horror. He loved its twisted charm, but the rest of the band didn't. George called it granny music. John refused to take it seriously. And Ringo, he just wanted it over. The recording dragged on for days. Endless takes, countless overdubs. McCartney, ever the perfectionist, pushed for precision, harmony, and polish. But every time he looked up, the others looked away. Years later, Paul admitted the song became a bit of a nightmare. He said, "I was trying to make something clever, but no one wanted to be there anymore." In a way, Maxwell's Silver Hammer wasn't just a song. It was the sound of the Beatles beginning to fracture. Obla-di, obla-da. It sounds joyful, that upbeat ska rhythm, those cheerful lyrics. But for the band, Obla-di, obla-da was anything but fun. McCartney drove them crazy with it. He recorded take after take, searching for a perfect swing no one else could hear. Lennon famously stormed out of the studio, calling it Paul's bloody granny music again. Even McCartney later confessed that the song took far too long and lost all its spirit. It was meant to be playful, but became mechanical. He said, "I liked the idea, but by the time we finished it, I was sick of hearing it." Ironically, it became one of the Beatles' biggest pop hits, proof that even their most painful sessions could produce gold. 3. A long and winding road, one of McCartney's most emotional ballads, and yet one of his most bitter memories. When he first wrote The Long and Winding Road, it was simple. A piano, a voice, a confession. But when producer Phil Spector added choirs, strings, and layers of orchestration without Paul's approval, McCartney was furious. He later called it the song that made me leave the Beatles. In interviews, he said, "It wasn't my song anymore. It was overproduced, smothered. I didn't recognize it." To fans, it's hauntingly beautiful. To Paul, it was the sound of losing control, of watching the Beatles' essence get buried under Hollywood gloss. You Know My Name? Look Up the Number. Most Beatles fans barely remember this track, and that's probably how Paul prefers it. Recorded over several years as a bizarre comedy piece, You Know My Name, Look Up the Number, was more chaos than creativity. John thought it was hilarious. Paul thought it was pointless. He later said, "We were trying to be Monty Python before Python existed, but it just went on forever. The sessions were messy, dozens of edits, silly voices, endless laughter that never quite turned into brilliance." Paul grew frustrated. "It stopped being funny halfway through," he recalled. Even he admitted that some Beatles experiments worked beautifully, but this one just got lost in its own joke. 5. Revolution 9. Few Beatles songs divide fans like Revolution. 9. An avant-garde sound collage led mostly by John and Yoko, it pushed boundaries and patience. Paul, always focused on melody and structure, hated it. He respected John's artistic courage, but he didn't believe it belonged on a Beatles record. He later confessed, "It wasn't music to me. It was an experiment, interesting, but not the Beatles I loved." During the sessions, Paul quietly distanced himself, choosing not to participate much at all. To him, Revolution 9 symbolized how far the band had drifted apart, how 4 young dreamers from Liverpool had become 4 separate worlds. Looking back now, Paul McCartney doesn't speak of hatred, only honesty. He admits that not every song was joyful, not every session was magic. But each moment, even the ones he resented, became part of something far greater, a legacy that will outlive them all. because for the Beatles, perfection wasn't the goal. It was emotion, raw, imperfect human. And perhaps that's why even the songs they couldn't stand recording are still being sung 50 years later. This is Legend Uncovered. Thanks for watching, and if this story moved you, subscribe for more untold truths behind rock's greatest legacies.
Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.